Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. As you know, there has been an uptick in violent crime in this community, and the persons in these neighborhoods and communities are looking for help and they're looking for leadership. Mayor Demings has formed a task force made up of persons from the community to advise him on strategies to aid in making this community, which is great, an even safer community. The mayor is here to discuss this with us, and he has the chairs of the task force with him today, which he will introduce. So I will turn it over to Mayor Demings. Mayor?
Let me just say good morning to all of you. It is a great day here in Orange County. I have the opportunity as the mayor of Orange County to introduce the Orange County Citizens Safety Task Force, which is going to be led by, to my right, Pastor Jim Coffin, who is the interim executive director of the Interfaith Council here within the region. And former Orange County Commissioner Mr. Rod Love is with us also as co-chairs. These individuals will lead this effort for what will likely be the next 120 days unless there's some challenge with meeting that particular deadline. We have set a 120-day deadline because we want to quickly get after the business of making recommendations and then executing those recommendations to make our community a safer community. During this period of time, we will work with membership that is representative of the broad array of people who live here within Orange County. We have a representation from the faith community. We have individuals from education. We have individuals from commerce. We have regular citizens who have been the victims of violent crime themselves. We have a former gang member who is engaged in this process. We have some local social justice activists who engage in this process. And we just have people who care about their community. They care about what is happening here. We have law enforcement that is engaged. We have individuals from the prosecution field. We have our local state attorney who is going to be part of this task force as well. So we're going to focus really on 4 pillars to bring about the change that we believe can be short-term and long-term. Those 4 pillars are centered around prevention, intervention, enforcement, and then prosecution. In order for us to put the structure to what needs to happen to adequately address these issues, we are going to focus in those areas and again involve all of the residents as we move the community meetings around. This is not going to be driven by Orange County government per se, because we're just the conveners and the facilitators of the conversation that the community will put in place. We will hold the meetings again at the various magic gyms, which I think provides some synergy between the citizens and government. Those magic gymnasiums were put in place through a collective partnership years ago as the Orlando Magic was expanding here within the area, and a new Amway Arena was being built. It was important to the elected leadership at the time between the county and the city and others that we would have some facilities that could serve as meeting places and locations where our youth could engage in sporting activities. And really the sporting activities are really just a hook that we use to be able to touch the lives of young people and have them immersed within our community and exposed to all of those positive things that can put them into a position where they can make good, positive decisions in their lives in the first place, where they choose not to get involved in gang activity, where they choose not to get involved in violent crime, where they choose to go to school, where they choose to get involved in all of those areas that make them well-rounded as young adults. And so with that, I'm going to ask our two co-chairs to come forward and just share with you a little bit about their own vision for this task force that will be meeting very soon. You should have the list of members there. We may add one or two individuals going forward, but at this time, I think we'll lead off with Pastor Jim Coffin, and then he'll be followed by former Orange County Commissioner, Mr. Roderick Love. Pastor Coffin. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mayor Demings and the Orange County Commission for the opportunity of participating in this program. And, you know, it's very easy for us, if life is going well for us, to not be thinking about what life is like for someone else. And we may live in a community where we don't have a sense of crime, where there's nothing happening that would cause us to have fear, and we can just kind of drift along and ignore the fact that in other areas there is a real problem. And it would be good for us, I think, to remember that in those other areas where there's a real problem, it hasn't always been that way. There was a time where that was a place of safety, and that was a place where people felt comfortable, and there was no problem whatsoever. And that reminds us then that, that all of us can face this kind of thing, and all of us have to pull together to try to correct this kind of thing. We need to do it because it's the right thing to do. We need to do it because it's the productive thing to do. We need to do it because it is the best thing that we can do for the whole of the community, and the community rises or falls together. We're not islands who can just be whatever we want to be and ignore the other parts. As I read the newspaper and as I watch television and listen to the radio, and I hear these crimes that are committed where it's little children who are killed, where it's mothers who are killed, where it's lives that are shredded by the incidents that take place, I have to pause and realize that the amount of heartache that comes, the amount of disruption, the amount of pain and fear that come from this kind of thing are actually not able to be calculated. And they also send out ripples to where people who haven't been affected are infected by the fear and the concern because they know the kind of thing that goes on. And so I commend the mayor, and I commend the commissioners and the staff and all who are involved in trying to say, let's make sure that we all pull together, and that involves the average citizen who is out there. It's not just some power structure that does it, but it's the average people who do it as well. And I think that that is a wonderful opportunity for us to come together, to pool ideas, to share insights that we have. And that's not to say that those who are in government don't have insights, but they recognize that there are more insights out there, and sometimes from very unlikely sources. And so to pull together a group of people who are diverse, a group of people who have different backgrounds, different areas of expertise, gives us the chance to come up with the best that's possible for us to do. And also, government tends to look at mechanisms, and they look at programs that can achieve goals. But we as ordinary citizens can look at relationships and the hands-on things that we can do whether we're part of an organization or whether we're just one individual citizen who seeks to make a difference. And so I'm really excited about the idea of being able to participate in this program where ordinary citizens come together and come up with ideas that can make our community a better community, that can make a greater solidarity, that can reduce the pain, that can reduce the violence that's there. And I would hope that we would look back on this experience and say, it's really a good idea that we did that. I would hope that the mayor would look at it and say, I wish I'd done it sooner because it was such a good idea. And so all who are on this task force and my co-chair, Commissioner Love, we're going to work toward that end. And I hope that that's what indeed is achieved. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you first and foremost for your leadership. I want to thank the Board of County Commissioners as well. And I just don't want to simplify it by saying thank you, because there's grandma and there's Pookie and there's these young people that we're going to be engaging. And Pastor Coffin mentioned the word all. All includes the media as well as you report on the killings that take place, which we have to see. We need you to report on the good things that are taking place in communities so that we don't see an additional killing. What we also want to say to you, Mr. Mayor, is that these next 120 days, we're going to roll up our sleeves. Those 37 individuals that you selected, they have skills and talents beyond anything that I've seen before. So I'm very optimistic that what we develop here is not just going to sit here with Orange County. What we develop here is going to be a model that represents throughout the state that we can make a difference for those taxpayer citizens that are saying enough is enough. I want to say to the media, we are going to need your help to continue to get information out. And if you're coming to one of these task force meetings and we're agreeing on everything, then we're not getting anything done. Iron sharpens iron. We need for you to come to the table. Bring some of that criticism that we know is out there so that it can make us better. But we have the individuals, Mr. Mayor, and I greatly appreciate it. I looked at that list. There's no reason why we can't submit to you recommendations that can change Orange County, that can be a model for the other municipalities that are within Orange County, that I would greatly anticipate them calling you to see what they can do to support this initiative. I'm not going to say anything further, but the last 4 words that I want to leave the media with, and I hope you continue to play this because part of our issue is communication. I'm going to leave it on this note. Prevention, intervention, enforcement, and prosecution. Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you. The first meeting of the task force will be November the 6th between 1:30 and 3 p.m. at Barnett Park at the Magic Gymnasium there. Of course, these meetings are going to take place in the sunshine. We will televise the general meetings on Orange TV. Then there are subcommittee meetings that may not be televised, but will still meet in the sunshine. That means that we will advertise when those meetings will occur. We will invite the community to come in. We're going to do this in a socially distanced way that makes it safe for everyone while the meetings are ongoing. Arguably for the majority of the period of time that the task force will be meeting, we'll still be having to deal with the pandemic itself, and so it's important, however, that we get after this. Again, this was something that was born out of a community conversation. There were community members, various ones who came to me and asked that we assist the community in impaneling a group conversation, a community conversation about what can be done. So we're not focusing on any particular neighborhood, any particular ethnicity. It's a county-wide focus, so the membership is geographically dispersed or diverse. We have representatives from the city of Orlando and other municipalities here within Orange County as well. So I will open it up at this time for any questions that you all may have if we did not answer them in advance. All right, questions?
I would ask, how is this different from other efforts in the past? I mean, even when you were sheriff, during that time there were programs, there was funding out there that was given to different nonprofit organizations to start mentoring programs and people in the community. How is this task force going to develop anything different from what's already been done?
I think everything's a matter of timing. And the time given the political landscape in our country, I think, calls for criminal justice change and social justice change I believe that we're on the precipice of something different at this point. During my tenure as the Orange County Sheriff, we had a spike in violent crime, but it was pretty much driven by one or two areas within the county. And we used a similar model at that time, and we were very successful during the short term of reducing violent crime and overall crime in a couple of different neighborhoods that we looked across the county. That effort was, while we engaged the citizens in the process, it still was perceived that it was being run by the sheriff. In this circumstance, the public have said that we want to be the leaders. So this is citizen-driven, not driven by any political office. Again, I'm just in the position as the county mayor to help convene this and facilitate the conversation, not to drive it, but to listen to the recommendations. So we're going to be as open as we possibly can during that process.
Mayor, how many times do you guys plan on meeting?
The citizens will make that determination. In the very beginning, that first meeting, there has to be some education, some procedural things that will occur because as members of this body, they will be governed by Florida's Sunshine Law, and they have to be informed about what the law says they can and they cannot do when they're not within the meetings in terms of the communications amongst one another. There will be some presentations about what is the state of crime or violent crime within our community. They have to hear from law enforcement about here is the state of what we're dealing with. And so once they're informed and everyone kind of has that baseline information, then they will decide how frequent that they will meet. There will be some subcommittees that are centered around those 4 pillars that we talked about, but each individual has a certain passion, and so they have to work within their passion. We cannot predetermine truly what their passion is, but we have done our homework. We've had many communications with the different individuals who have agreed to participate, and we have in advance tried to help provide the structure to the process that will go forward. Yes.
So these meetings are going to be open for the public. You were mentioning that, so people could go to the park or these meetings and be part of it. And
These
they can talk and they can be part of these meetings as well, like in civilians.
These meetings will be open to the public. However, we will have to socially distance them. You know, the task force, we had no shortage of individuals who wanted to be a part of the task force. But in order, because of the social distancing requirements and just the sheer process of coordination, we had to try to limit the numbers. And but at these magic gyms, they're sizable facilities. We believe that there's an orderly process that can be put in place to keep everybody safe. But the reason why we're going to cover the general meetings on Orange TV is so that the public can be able to participate virtually. So because of the era that we're living in, we have learned very well that we can manage in-person and virtual meetings. And so we're going to use that knowledge that we have as a county now to help ensure that the citizens are able to engage in the processes. Every one of the individuals who have agreed to do this, they have relationships within the community. Some come from organizations, some are clergy persons from our community, some represent youth-related organizations who are doing work themselves. So we're simply trying to leverage that and bring all of their relationships together in the process. Okay. The 120 days is so that we can hopefully very quickly produce a product that can be used going forward. Believe it or not, we're in the first quarter of the fiscal year 2021 that will end in December 31st. So we will start our planning process as a county for the 2022 fiscal year as early as late January, early February. So if there will be any types of budgetary impacts for the future, we want to be early enough in our budgetary processes to take into consideration what needs to be done. And then time is of the essence. We have seen in the recent weeks children as young as 3 years old shot and killed in a drive-by. Several teenagers and others who some survived, some died as a result of it. So we believe that time is of the essence, that there's a certain urgency to trying to leverage the relationships throughout our community to get something done quickly. So rather than make it a 6 months or a year, we are saying to ourselves during this 120-day period of time, let's get after it and produce something that can be institutionalized in the long term, but also address short-term needs.
Can I ask another question? And I'd like to see if I could get the mayor and Mr. Kaufman to answer this. And I don't want this to sound off-putting, but I think if I leave here and I go to Pine Hills where a lot of this violent crime is happening, where a 3-year-old teenagers have been killed, they're going to look and say, here we go, another white man trying to fix problems in my black community. And so, Mayor, I guess I'd ask you, what factored into having the diversity that you have on this panel in terms of the racial makeup? And Mr. Kaufman, I'd ask you, how do you get people at this table, how do you get people in those types of communities to hear their voice?
So I'll start by first saying that this isn't about race. It's not about a particular area, because we've had some violent crime incidents that have happened throughout the county. In fact, one of my assistant county attorneys was murdered just in the downtown corridor in a neighborhood that perhaps you would not normally associate with a violent crime problem. So what I do know is that violent crime can occur anywhere. And so we're not trying to, I think, be negative about any particular community. This is a positive initiative. That's why we have called it a citizen safety task force. It's about the safety. And so we're not trying to be exclusive here. We're trying to be inclusive. And regardless of one's race, gender, culture that they come from, I know with nearly 40 years of being a law enforcement officer, violent crime touches every community. And so that's why we're being inclusive here. And Pastor Jim, you might want to chime in there.
First of all, I'd like to say I think it's a very good question and a very important question. And you asked the question because there is a real problem that we need to be aware of, and we need to make sure that we overcome appropriately. And so it's one of the things about this task force is we not only want to identify a problem, but we want to identify solutions to the problem and the people who can help bring about that solution. And so it may be that the problem exists more in some communities than in others, but we really need to get the whole broad community involved. And so I believe that there's a benefit in having that whole broad mix that we have in the community clearly involved, so that in part we can go back to our respective communities and say we must be a part of what's going on. And so I recognize, the question you raised. I think it's very legitimate. I think it's very understandable. And so I would just say, let's try to think of my role in this is to help to make sure that the broad community is reached. so that we can achieve more effectively.
Over here. So for the Hispanic community that maybe English is their second language or they don't understand well English, these meetings are going to be some parts Spanish, and it's going to be at least like a summary, like when you do press conferences in our stuff?
We have representatives who have volunteered, who are Spanish speaking, who are fluent. We will certainly work when we do our general meetings. We will have individuals from the American Sign Language group that will be there to do signing for those who are hearing impaired. We will do the translations as well. So we're being very, very inclusive in this process. And so the individuals who are volunteering their time, these are all volunteers. They are individuals who have the passion and the love for the community. And to me, you don't have to be a particular gender or race to have a love for the community to want to bring about the change that's needed here. So we are being inclusive. Okay. Okay. If there are no other questions, let me just say thank you again for being here. We wanted to share with you a little bit about the perspective which we are moving forward with this endeavor within our community. We look forward to engaging you with us as we go forward.